Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Koi Koi Japan Hanafuda playing cards. So, 2 days later, I have gotten all of the postcards except for one. And this will probably be our last episode. There's just one Hokkaido postcard we haven't collected. We'll get that on screen to see, that's what I will say. On the postcards, they seem to be fairly recognizable as far as what they are, and they're just kind of like generic images. I guess I kind of have to plot. This would probably be a little confusing, the little neon light sign, but not super confusing if you just have some Japanese art here. There was really only one picture of a train. And there would have been a lot of opportunity for a lot more subways and trains, but I guess there are some bridges and railroads. It is nice to see that they didn't just delve deep into trying to sell a game that had just like naked anime girls as the rewards, because you could easily have just swapped out these images and sold the exact same game and tried to sell on the lewdness. And it's nice that they tried to approach a broader market. This is the only postcard that I just don't know what I'm looking at. I think if I was to guess, this is a hot spring that has been kind of dammed up. That's about all I could figure what it is. Like, yeah, that's my guess. Like it kind of looks like little coffins, but they just bury bodies in Japan, and in the same way that they bury bodies almost all around the world. I don't even think that they cremate very often. So the idea of like above ground coffins would just not be smart anyways, so I assume that's not what I'm seeing there. Plus, that would be an incredibly morbid image compared to like every other image, which is clearly come visit Japan pretty imagery, sometimes of things which I assume this is Mount Fuji, or this might be the Emperor's Castle, or just some famous castle. Here you have just pretty trees and rivers and such. It has been very fine. the fun and fine, I think, are the right terms. Here you have the Tokyo Tower, or at least something that looks like the Tokyo Radio Tower. I may be actually wrong about that. There's one that looks quite like the Eiffel Tower. And that doesn't look too off from the Sydney Opera House, but I'm imagining that's not what that is, because that Sydney Opera House in Australia is not in the Kansai area of Japan. But who knows? They may have copied it. I did a little bit of research. There seems to be some other scoring metrics in Koi Koi that you can get on the first hand, that this game is not playing by those rules. So those might be house rules or not. Also, sometimes the seed tier is referred to on a quick Google search as the animal tier, and the light tier is sometimes referred to as the bright tier, which makes sense that the light and bright probably in Japanese mean exactly the same. Here you have some dancing ladies. So yeah, Japanese is a very subtle language, and it is fairly possible that one word can mean multiple things, or that there just isn't a direct translation to another language, which often leads to arguments again amongst anime fans who have self-taught or learned Japanese, and they translate it differently than the localization team that created a dub translated. Even amongst fan translators, there was a decent amount of argument about how things should be phrased, and there's kind of still some inconsistency even there when anime in particular is translated or Japanese was translated, because the honorifics, the sama, the chan, the sensei, those have not been directly translated in a very long time, and now they are just understood by anybody who has even a basic understanding of Japanese. That whereas lots of people would like understand oni as being standing for brother, oni, O-N-I-I, I believe, not oni, O-N-I, which means demon, and that chan means that there's a familiarness there. But phrases like Oji, which is more closer to uncle, is less familiar to your average anime follower. So one thing I wanted to do is let's give ourselves a real challenge, because it's been stupid easy. Like, now I did look at the achievements here, and there are achievements for getting like 50 wins in a row, and then there are some achievements for getting like 100 different Yaku's combinations. But there's also a lot of multiplayer here, so if multiplayer is just not playable, then it is going to be kind of a hassle at that point to or more than a hassle, it'll just be completely impossible to beat this. Here, you even have an anime guy. Interesting. So I've turned it up to the hardest difficulty, and we still can't get into any of these other modes. So they clearly are either glitched or they want you to do it in a row. So I very quickly, it's actually a little surprising it took only 2 days. 2 days of with a lot of sleeping and taking breaks, frankly, to get through this. You would kind of think for a card game, since that's all it offers, they might throw out some more ridiculous numbers and just a higher requirement for victories. But I think this is fine too, because you could always go back and play if you wanted to. Nothing's stopping you. And there's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So 45 victories were needed for this, and then 45 victories will probably be needed for the next group, and then 45 more victories for the second group after that, and then 45 more victories after that. So you're talking 180 games in total in the campaign. On top of, if you want to get all the achievements, you're probably going to have to play about 100 games, I would suspect, on multiplayer. So you've got a lot here. As a video game critic, you do run into this point. Now, I've also think when you're the dealer, you deal yourself first. The dealing order here still is weird to me. That you deal yourself 4, and then you deal your opponent 4, and then you deal 4 in the middle, or you deal yourself 4 and then you deal 4 on the table, then you deal your opponent 4, and then you go around again. But yeah, there are a couple of Yaku here that are just not mentioned, or weren't in the tutorial, at least. And I don't think that they're being mentioned here either. And I guess the general idea is that would be fairly boring to have to end the round immediately, but it does seem like those are sometimes played. One of the Yakus is to have a full set, so the entire 4 cards of a month in your hand, and just end the round right then to get like 6 points or 5 points. And the other Yaku is to have like a pair, and then another pair, and then another pair, and then another pair. So your entire starting hand would be a matching pair, and you end that, and I think you get 5 points for that. I will say this game has given me like zero challenge, but I can't say I really have been upset with that, because I would have probably just come back and rage quit if I said, oh no, some of these regions and some of these characters they put you against are just so much smarter than the ones I happen to be playing in the first couple of recordings, and they're just wiping the deck with me. And I would say the strategy is, for the most part, fairly obvious in this game. So there's not a lot of different strategies that you can implement. You're just trying to get the light tiers and the seed tier cards. I did realize that the red ribbons, the 3 that you need to collect for that special Yaku, which I believe is Akatan, as opposed to Akotan. Yeah, Akatan versus Aotan. Yeah, okay. Like, these 3 ribbons have Japanese writing on them, so that's how you recognize them compared to the other red ribbons that don't have any writing on them. There we've got a Kaisu, and that's as much as we can get, so we should just stop here and move forward, because there's no reason to risk it. Music's a little different, but we haven't done a koi koi, so once we do the koi koi, they'll probably just jump back to the same music as before. Let's see. Wow, this is a lucky starting move. All 4 of that. And this is not a bad card to start with. Let's see. But there's a lot of variety in these cards and specific value in a lot of these cards. More than you normally would just assume. Because, like, this bird is nowhere as valuable as the deer, because the bird doesn't really synergize with an extra Yaku. This fish is the same way, so you have to get 4 or 5 seed tier or animal tier cards before you could score on that. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, you get a Tane seed when you have 5 animals, but 3 of those animals are way more valuable. The butterfly, the boar, and the deer. It seemingly seems like it's the right move to always toss out the lowest value card if you can't make a move. I think this one that says Zoo might be just an indicator of the brand of Hanafuda cards that are being depicted here. Also, I printed out some Hanafuda cheat sheets that showed the images, and either my printer was running out of ink or the colors were rather faded, and I imagine that probably is the case, is that a more traditional looking Hanafuda set would look very faded, making of inks that to last even in today's day and technology is not particularly great. See, we're just trying to avoid a stalemate at this point. It does definitely feel like they're playing smarter, and they will just take. Wow, I'm really surprised that they koi-koi'd there. I wouldn't. If I get a match here, I won't. But they will automatically. It automatically plays the last play and says stop. It would have been nice if they had said what this is in Japanese, because if I was to go and try and play a Japanese person, I could say koi koi, but I would just have to say stop out loud, so I don't have the full vocabulary of the game. It's the dealer deals 4 for them, then they deal 4 for the opponent and 4 on the table, and then they go around again. And whoever ends the previous round is the dealer. I think that's how that works. and that probably is in part an advantage that I haven't even really been recognizing. This is basically the first time I've been in round 3 and I have not been up, and usually I am up by a considerable amount by round 3. There's been several games I've played where I've ended it at round 3. I think I even got one at round 2 where I just got really lucky to take all 30 of their points in 2 rounds. I don't think you could probably, well, I don't think you'd be likely, at least, to score high enough to win in 1 round. Which, that is an indication of good game design, really, because I'm just going to take this and try and take control as the dealer. And see, I don't remember some of these rules, so I don't know if the dealer switches when you stalemate, which we might run into that. In this case, of course, you want an animal versus a playing card, so you just do that. Like, these are very basic strategies that you kind of figure out very quickly. Yeah, I think this zoo is an indicator of the brand of cards, because I don't know why else it would be in English, and it would have been nice if all of these phrases were translated, but they probably say something very simplistic like just good luck or something like that. I still have yet to figure out what this is supposed to represent. It seems like it is just like stone or something, but I have pretty much figured that it is the plain tier of this light tier card, so I was intentionally placing that so I could play this. I got 2 or 3 of all of the light tier cards, and many times I've gotten 3 or 4 of the light tier cards to give a pretty high score. It's my best scoring round. I think I had 1 Yaku for having 4 god tier light tier cards, and then 2 separate matches Yaku's here, one probably for having 5 animals and one for having the boar, the deer, and the butterfly, which I don't want to put the boar on the ground if I can avoid it. And then I may have also had this chrysanthemum and sake cup, which would have synergized for a couple more matches. And then I believe I had 1 of the ribbon things, if not 2 of the ribbon things. And even at that, I think it really only gave me, I want to say 45, but I don't think that's right. I think it gave me like 28 points. Like, I would have a hard time believing it, but it's really 45. There might be some lower strategies to go for just more planes if you just want to end the game. See, we've ended up almost with a stalemate, and yet he got a Tane at the very end, and a Suki Mazeki. And so, of course, it's going to automatically stop, and we're at round 4, and you can see while we are not very far in the points, if I don't get an advantage in the next 2 rounds, I will lose. There's definitely weirdness with a game like this as a video game critic, because it's not a game that I really intend to play a lot of after covering it. Like, it's a game I enjoy in owning and supporting by having purchased it, but I probably would not come back and play it except for maybe on a really special occasion. Unlike, say, a collectible card game that is constantly adding updates and giving you like daily quests and really trying to make you play as much as humanly possible, there's really not a motivator like that in this. So you have your fun with it, and then you call it a day, and that's not a bad thing. So, yeah, this would be literally 1 point. Like, I'm fairly certain that's just 1 point, which is not enough to really win. So I have to basically have a very, very good round here, or we've lost. So let's see if we can do that. There's a lot of light tier cards. Unfortunately, I don't have a great way of getting them. So I'm gonna have to just keep on playing because I have no choice. And at any point it could turn around, certainly, but it's no guarantee it will. See, a Kaizu will give me 1 point, but I have to Koi Koi because I need like 3 points. So I need to get particularly lucky in this last move. I may be 1 point over. Alright, I got 3 points from the Kaizu, I got 1 point from the Koi Koi. It gave me 4 points. That's 2 points over. Or a lot more points over than I thought. Can't do the math right. So we got a postcard. Butler guy tells us that. And you can see that there is basically no fanfare at all for getting all the postcards. It's not coming up here and saying anything special or anything like that. The game is keeping itself fairly simplistic. Now I'm going to go ahead and, just for simplicity's sake, set this back to calm level 1. You could definitely spend a lot more time on this, certainly. Set it to calm level 4, set it to 12 rounds. Although, if you play at calm level 1 and 12 rounds, you're probably going to win before 12 rounds are ended anyways. I think I'm probably somewhere between this. I could probably hold my own fairly well at calm level 3 without any real struggle. Let's go ahead and just continue to swap some things out. See, 6 is still locked. These 3 screenshots are still locked. This character is locked, this character is locked, this character is not locked, this character is locked, and this character is not locked. Another guy. Don't let the long hair confuse you. So some of this might just be from multiplayer. Let's see, we're at like a win percentage of 100%. Maybe we needed to lose a game. We've played 45 games, 238 rounds. You can see the Yakas I've gotten. There are some I think that they do want you to get maybe like 50 of. Although it would be really crazy to get like 50 Goku or Goko-yu. It's probably not pronounced Goku because that would be Dragon Ball. But maybe there's just some achievements for getting like 10 of some of these, which it seems fairly reasonable that you could get 10 of each of these. Apparently I've gotten 0 of the Akagana Sane, which might be the Yaku of the starting game. And of course I haven't played any multiplayer. So let's go back to the single player and go back to the campaign. Can we now play these other modes? No. 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 Well, I don't know. Maybe the game is glitched. or maybe you just have to do something else. Because, or maybe I'll have to go and look and see if there was like some DLC. That would be fairly annoying to have DLC and try and double sell it on me. I don't know how much I really paid for this game, but it would be very annoying to have them try to double dip on you. And that would be certainly bad. So let's go back to the training and restore to that game that we started. And let's see who that changed into. So this is the guy we're playing as now, instead of the girl in the traditional Japanese dress. I forget the name of it. So maybe we need to win a couple of games here. That's my only other thought. And if that doesn't happen, then we will go and check I'll go and check the Steam website and see what's going on with these other elements. Because, yeah, that would pretty much stink to need to buy more. It's not something that I think I would inherently just be completely objectionable to, but I would have a lot of pause, certainly, because it doesn't feel like there's quite enough game here to justify even a $5 price tag if there's then a 99-cent DLC 3 times over for 3 extra single-player campaigns. Now, in all realisticness, and if you don't want to be particularly snobbish about it, there's a game definitely here to play. You could easily just play the postcard campaign over and over again, and I imagine the other sections don't really change the gameplay at all. By the way, one of those animals tiers, which they're calling seed tier, depicts just a water fountain. There's this like bamboo water feature that are in many Japanese gardens, that the bamboo is on a pivot and it fills up with water falling down from a higher point, always streaming. The bamboo fills up when it's on the pivot, angled in such a way that it collects the water at the base of the bamboo. Eventually the water gets so filled up that it fills the entire bamboo, and once the other half, the other side of the pivot is full, the bamboo falls down forward, dumping all the water out, and then it falls back down, making a very iconic thump. And I imagine there's some other images here that I might be not recognizing. Here's what I'm talking about. I assume that's what this is. If that's not, then these are just paths. These are just bridges. I definitely do feel like I would struggle quite a bit to try to play this in the real world without a computer scoring for me and telling me whether I could do something right or whether I'm making a mistake trying to make a match. I don't find any of the cards too deceptively confusing except for this one. So it does seem like it's fairly easy to match the plants if you know to look for the plants. What kind of plants these are really supposed to represent, I don't know if that's just fields of grass or what. I do think that to a lot of people's minds, having the bright day sky be white and the sun red, and then the night sky be red with the moon being white, might confuse a few people. Like here, this is the depiction of the moon. there. The moon is pure white, and I guess in reality the moon is white, but nighttime is not red. And that almost certainly is because there was a very limited colors to use when these were originally printed. And I imagine if there ever was a black and white version of Hanafuda cards, they would be particularly dull in comparison. Like, having color in printing was definitely a sign of richness. Let's see, it's not koi koi, let's just stop. And again, take victory. It does seem like Kojiro will talk to us each round, and he'll probably very quickly exhaust what he has to say. Yeah, well played, next time I won't be so easy on you. So, he said the exact same thing twice in a row. I imagine he has only like 5 lines of dialogue. Let's see. So, let's go 6 rounds and see what happens. The thing that would be weird here is we go these 6 rounds and I win, which I assume I will win at this level of difficulty, and that still does not unlock or show any sign that it would unlock anything. I mean, we can try multiplayer, there's no reason not to try it, but we really are at the end of anything new to show unless we can unlock those other sections. And even if we do unlock the other sections, we really are at the end anyways. What you're missing here is the more custom ideas, and I imagine it might be close to sacrilege to let people change the rules. Yeah, same phrase again. But if you could ban certain Yakus, if you could play with multiple decks, if you could really do things that they probably would never do in Japan, that's where it would be more comparable to, say, like a Monopoly digital version game where you can change the rules and play house rules and custom rules. And if the campaigns changed how you played a little bit, then that would probably keep things interesting too. The fact that we are just playing koi koi kind of limits you, whereas if you were just playing Tabletop Simulator, you probably can get Hanafuda cards in Tabletop Simulator, and maybe in that game there really is no enforcement of the rules, but if both players are playing online and know the rules, that wouldn't be much different from what you're doing here. This game doesn't delve deep into giving any kind of hints or tips or tricks, which I don't really think that there's much to say. This is very far from the Japanese chess game shogi, which I would kind of want to learn to play shogi, but I also recognize that it is such an incredibly difficult thing to learn. I probably would not have enough of an attention span to make it all the way through. Even learning the basics, let alone getting to a point where you could actually play somebody who traditionally knows how to play it. I'm not sure Japanese people in general know how to play it. They probably know how to play Western chess just about as much. And you have the same problem kind of with Western chess also, and the fact that there are people that generally know how to play it, and then there are people that really know all the moves and how to play it. And it's often not very fun to try and play chess with somebody who's actual chess aspiring champion that's taking it seriously. Yeah, I've never really been able to get around to playing Tabletop Simulator, but I do think when I finally do, I'll probably find that there's dozens upon dozens of games like this, mini games, little board games, tabletop games that open up a very good argument to not bothering to buying probably half a dozen of other kinds of games I've bought on Steam that are more specific. There is, it feels like in the strategy of this, a level of conservativeness that is kind of awkward too. Whereas in playing poker, you can, if you want to be stupid, you can chase a flush, you can chase a royal flush, you can chase a straight flush. There's really not too much there, and it's so obvious that you wouldn't want to do that because the risk is so high. If you're chasing a flush and you have like 4 of a kind, you still have something. If you're chasing a very high scoring round in this game, you could very easily end up stalemating and causing yourself to lose because of it, particularly if they have points above you and it's like the last round. And I can't complain that it's really easy on level 1, because if a kid was playing this is the level of difficulty I would expect a kid who is just learning the game. This is what I would expect their experience should be. And build up their confidence, make them feel like they're really good, and then start crushing them once you turn up the difficulty. There's no way this guy's gonna win, so I'm not really much of a danger. There we go. Victory, let's see what he says. Victory with 1 point was more than enough than what I needed. You can't really end here without somebody getting a point somewhere, I think. Okay, so we won. I can't believe it. Okay, and yeah, I don't know a reason why that would have unlocked anything. Let's see. But 6 is still locked. These images are still locked. Mei is still locked. Umi is still locked. Musashi is still locked. Alright, so here's the first anime girl that we've had that even shows even a little bit of cleavage. Let's see if the campaign mode is now unlocked. Well, the only other thing I could think before I'm gonna have to look back here is maybe you have to play a higher round with 12 game rounds, and the game is just really bad about telling you that. Well, maybe you have to play at the highest round. See, because it really wouldn't make any sense that there's like some kind of final boss you have to beat in postcard mode. Because where would that final boss even be? Okay. So let me start. Let me just go to Steam and let's go to the store page of the game. Okay. Yes, there is a $1.99 bit of DLC called the Yu-Gi-Oh! Tours Volume 1. And let's see the things. Yu-Gi-Oh! Are traditional Japanese style woodblock prints. 53 stations of the Tokaido is a famous series of Yu-Gi-Oh! Prints created by Hiroshige during his travels in 1832 on the Tokaido Coastal Road from Kyoto to Edo, modern-day Tokyo. Let's see. There's a new guide character you get, a new gameplay mode, and a new background image you get. So, yeah. It is DLC, so you'd pay $5.97 for 3 volumes of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Tour. On top of, undiscounted at the moment, is $9. The main game is $9.99, which is a little bit expensive. It is also bundled with another game from Zoo Corporation. So Zoo is the name of the creators, called Bishoujo Battle Hanafuda Koi Koi, and in that it seems like there is a much more of an emphasis of having anime girls in military uniforms with guns, but the game itself seems to be exactly the same, and there are 2 Bishoujo Battle games. One is a Mahjong Solitaire, one is a Hanafuda Koi Koi game. But it is pretty much the exact same game. So, yeah. The deluxe edition is 10% off if I bought that. And this is just a case of me accidentally buying the wrong version, almost certainly. Or, I don't know, maybe I got this in a Humble Bundle. The deluxe edition, which would have included all of the DLC, is $14.36, which it is hard to really justify all that. Currently on the achievements, I have 25 out of 34 achievements, with the ones that I don't have being 100 wins, 500 wins, getting all of the red and blue ribbons at the same time, getting the light 4 10 times, the light 5 10 times, getting all of the Yaku. So there is some starting hand Yaku, and then there is a multiplayer the multiplayer mode where you play a game and then you quit multiplayer mode. You get an achievement for that, you get a victory, and then you get 10 victories, then you get 100 victories. And then somehow, if you earn in multiplayer 20 points with 1 stop. So, there's a bit there, certainly. So one of the DLCs must throw in the music too. So you get 1 image for each of one of the 3 DLCs. You get 1 character for each of the 3 DLCs. I definitely have to take points away from that. Like, that does not strike me as something that I feel like is right. Okay, click the ready button. Standby mode allows you to return to the main menu while waiting for an opponent. You can click the single player. You can play single player while you're waiting. So even they know that this is going to be really late. So is this little red square that's here mean we're in standby mode, or is that just a visual glitch? Click the ready button to start. So here we are at Room of Plum. Let me just double check to see if there's like a firewall issue. And I'm not seeing anything like that. I imagine nobody's playing this. And that becomes a problem, certainly. It does definitely make you feel like you might be better off playing something like Tabletop Simulator. Not that there's a big multiplayer server system around Tabletop Simulator, but then at the very least, for Tabletop Simulator, you spend at most $20. You've got the beginnings of a lot of different games instead of just Koi Koi Hanafuda. And you can play against other friends who probably also have a copy of Tabletop Simulator, and you can play in VR for whatever that is worth to you. So, what can you say? The game as core, now having looked at the price and knowing that there's DLC, it's alright. If I was to give numbers to games, I would say this is probably a 7.0 type game, depending heavily on whether you wanted to learn to play Hanafuda in the first place, and whether you enjoyed learning to play and playing Hanafuda after the fact. If you have zero interest in playing Hanafuda or learning about the cards, then by all means don't buy this game. If you want to learn to play Hanafuda, this does it for you. You can play forever in the training mode with a selection of anime characters, and you can play forever in the campaign postcard mode with a selection of very generic anime, more realistic animated Japanese characters that don't talk to you or say anything, which honestly, them not talking to you is probably going to be very, very preferable after about 2 or 3 rounds, because you're going to find that everybody just says the exact same phrase over and over again, 1 or 2 phrases. But then you definitely also have to take into consideration there's kind of an inherent greed in this game, and clearly there's not going to be any multiplayer support. So if you're going to just be playing against bots, the challenge of playing against bots on level 4 is challenging enough to be acceptable. But yeah, there definitely have been 60-hour games, 100-hour games that sold for less than $10 on the Steam sale that you might have a more linear, more storyline experience, a more traditional run and gun shooter experience that might be worth it more than just a game that's all about one thing. When you compare this to, say, Free Cell that came with Windows for free, at least it did originally, the reason why that game is so iconic and popular is because it was free, not because it's particularly good. So when you have Koi Koi, a Koi Koi game like this selling for $10, it has to offer $10 more than what the free game Free Cell had to offer, and it just barely seems to accomplish that. And so there's some reservations. With reservations, I would recommend this game, but know what you're getting into. See, here we can see 0 lobbies are being found, so either my firewall is just blocking them completely, or there just are none. And if I were to look at this on the other side, then would I have preferred this game more if it had anime girls that were all showing a lot of cleavage and a lot of skin? Not really. Like, I think you just alienate a smaller portion of your audience there. There definitely was some weirdness with Meg being called Meg, but all the other characters, they look fine. Yeah, there's a little cleavage here, but Ninja Girl doesn't stand out so much. Mina, I believe this is a Yukata. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And then they threw in a guy, just so you could see, a guy in a Western butler outfit for those fans. And then they threw in a samurai outfit guy. But yeah, these characters don't really add anything to the game. And in fairness, the postcards kind of don't add anything either. There is problems with the fact that they're not full screen. I'm definitely hoping I got this on sale and I only paid maybe 99 cents for it. It would be an easy sale at 99 cents. But at $10, that is hard. It'd be an easy sale even at $2.99. But much more than that, you've really got to want to learn to play Hanafuda. And the good news for me was I really did want to learn to play Hanafuda. The bad news for me is I've now kind of learned it, and now I probably would never play it again on a digital format like this against computers. I might play it against a random Japanese person if I ever ran against a random Japanese person that happened to have a set, but that's about it. It is a pretty good game, I imagine, if you did manage to get your hands on a set of cards to teach other people to play, particularly young kids. And then of course you run into the problem of, do you want your young 3-4-year-olds looking at this? But you can change the theme, so that's not a big deal. It would be my guess that this game has mostly been abandoned since 2015. It wouldn't change, it wouldn't be hard to put a dash 2020 and put a 5-year update in there. I imagine the price has not gone down except for during sales since 2015. This is a prime example of a game that probably has no reason to lower its price, because the amount of demand, since it's such a niche product 5 years ago, is pretty much the same as the amount of demand today. But yeah, I'm droning on. That's going to be it for this series. It wasn't a super long one, but there really wasn't a lot to do. Remember that in between this episode and the last episode, I did play for, I would say, 16 to 20 hours, just playing the single player to get all the postcards, and that was fine. That was fun. But I'm really just like that now, knowing that the DLC cost extra money. I've run out of any reason to play the game very quickly, which you definitely wouldn't want to have happen with any other kind of game, because this is kind of a very soft rage quit, where you're just raging because the game is asking for more money in the form of the campaign. I feel like the campaign should have been more focused on, and there should have been more of a story, more characters talking to you, kind of a tournament anime arc, where each character had a line of dialogue to push you forward. If you think about like the Yu-Gi-Oh cartoon, if the Yu-Gi-Oh cartoon itself was just showing the card game, it would be way more boring than what the cartoon was, because the cartoon itself put a ton of drama and story around the stakes of a kid's card game to a ridiculous extent. But yeah, that's going to be it for this series. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gives me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.